All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the recap. Michael D'Angelo, joined as always by my partner in crime, Mr. Big D, Daryl Ortiz, coming off of Bad Blood. We got Raw and SmackDown to recap. The first of, I guess, for the rest of the year, Big D. It's a 2-hour show for Monday Night Raw, just until they end up on Netflix, it sounds like.
Yeah,
so
it's temporary.
Temporary, but take us through Monday Night Raw. What happened?
Well, speaking of temporary, CM Punk came out, just made it only to the entrance ramp. Didn't really go further than that. Just talking about, really selling the brutality of the Hell in a Cell match and talking about how, he's not sure if he can still do this, kind of hinting retirement. But as we all know, Saudi show's coming up. He really doesn't want to go to Saudi, so he's just going to be gone for a couple months while they go do the Saudi stuff, and then he'll come back.
Yeah, do that one.
Because he was interrupted by Seth Rollins, who just shoulder checked him on his way down the ring. No eye contact, just shoulder checked him and kept walking. Of course, Punk was mad dogging him the whole way down. And of course, Seth Rollins kind of cuts a promo. It's not. I don't think he's a new character or new gimmick. I think he's still doing. I mean, obviously, he's still going to be the Monday Night Rollins, all that good stuff, and he's I think he's going to keep that the Monday Night Messiah and everything. But it's a little bit of a slightly different feel to him. I feel just a slightly bit. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it yet, but I'm sure that'll come to light soon. And so, he talks about he can't wait for CM Punk to return so that he can put him back on the shelf indefinitely, and retire him. Yeah. So that was kind of that, and then he focuses attention on Bronson Reed, telling him he wants him anytime, anywhere, obviously hinting to some kind of extreme stipulation, maybe a false count anywhere, or maybe just a hardcore match or no rules match. Mainly because Bronson Reed's the one who put him on the shelf with the 6 tsunamis off the top, which was over the top and insane. But great way to put over a performer overnight, right? And Bronson Reed's been huge, so so that's good. Looks like that's going to be the next feud is Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed. Whether we'll see it in Saudi or we'll see it, at Survivor Series, we'll find out soon enough. But that was pretty much the gist of his promo. Nothing too crazy said, I don't believe. What did you think?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but both of these promos were pretty mild. Where I was it was just CM Punk saying, "See you in a little while, peace." You won't see me for a few weeks, and then I was like, "This is a pretty mediocre promo from Seth Rollins." He was just doing the hint at we're setting up the feud for later with him and CM Punk, which I think he's going to end up being the heel, and that's why I feel like they're doing this. Let's change his demeanor a little bit, and then they're going to flip him and have him be the heel for that one. But in the meantime, he needs something to do. So Bronson Reed, I'm going to get my revenge, and then they immediately went into Jey Uso walked out right as he was walking out. I was like, wow, this is promo walkout. It was a kind of a weird clunky start, and then it was onto that match. So I was like, it was just felt
and
odd.
See, in my notes, I did put here that it did seem kind of just one after another. But I think a lot of it was probably because they're dealing with timing. This is the first 2-hour show that they've had in a very long time. Because Raw used to be 2 hours back in the day, but now it's 3. They're able to stretch stuff out more. I think promos used to be longer. We're gonna have to get used to shorter promos. You would think that they would have the timing down because of SmackDown, but I think they have a lot of star power on Raw. Yeah.
It's not like Triple H hasn't been putting on a 2-hour show every single week. Yeah. I think this is where I was really excited about it because I love SmackDown's pacing. Generally, I'm hey, they've got this tuned in and dialed down. It's a tight 2-hour show. And honestly, there were times where this 2-hour show felt like a 4-hour show to me. Yeah, because I was like, man, there was long stretches where it dragged.
Yeah, it felt like a 3-hour show crammed to 2. It's really what it felt like. It didn't feel like they trimmed anything. It just felt like they took all 3 and just made it fit. And so maybe that'll just over time. I think a lot of it has to do with the amount of star power they have on Raw. I mean, I know they have a lot of star power on SmackDown too, so I get that. But I feel like there's so much going on Raw right now that I think they're just trying to make it all fit. And so leading to the Jey Uso Xavier Woods match, that was actually a pretty okay match. Xavier Woods kind of stayed in control most of the time. Lots of ad breaks. It's a 2-hour show and we're still getting tons of ad breaks, which is ridiculous.
About 70% of this match was during commercial.
Exactly.
And that was frustrating for me where I was like, you really couldn't get into it. And I was like, this is...
And I wanted to.
This should be... Yeah, because I think the part that I got to see was cool. That's how, when I liked it, I was like, "This is good," but it was a shocking amount of a intercontinental title match that you didn't get to see.
Well, especially if it being Jay's first title defense. This is
Yeah.
really his first title defense. And I mean, Xavier Woods isn't a chump either. I mean, they still have a storyline going there with Xavier Woods. You did have Kofi at ringside, and of course this match wasn't too crazy. And again, it was hard to kind of get into it, right, because of all the ad breaks. But pretty much what ended up happening is there was a great spot where Xavier was trying to go for his elbow drop and got super kicked in midair, and then Jey Uso just hit the splash, took the victory, and then after that, Braun Breaker came out, speared the hell out of Jay. So that went to hell because the whole like I respect you whatever just went out the window. Then he hit Kofi, then he did the runaround hitting Xavier Woods and just speared him to like next week. It looked like, but yeah. So my guess is there's talks that Goldberg's gonna do a run with Gunther, and so I have a feeling that because that's going to happen now, they just told Braun Breaker, okay, well, we're going to move you back over here, and you're gonna come back over here again. So it's going to be at the expense of Braun Breaker, which is a shame. But I mean, I hope that's not the case.
Yeah.
But it looks like we're gonna get something between Gunther and Goldberg. I think there's talks with Triple H with him. Yeah.
I hope not. I sincerely hope not, but we'll see. And that feels much more like something you would see at Crown Jewel. Which is not going to happen. Obviously, Gunther's tied up with Cody Rhodes at Crown Jewel, but that feels like a Saudi show. If you're going to be like, hey, let's trot out Goldberg versus Gunther.
I mean,
one thing I didn't like about this too is the commentary reactions. When Braun comes out and starts spearing everybody, you've got like all the yelling about why Braun, why Joe's like, what's going on? Braun Breaker, why would you do this? And I'm like, this is the most on-brand thing that Braun Breaker could do is run around the ring spearing everybody. This man has been running around attacking people and spearing them for months. And the fact that everyone's like him shaking Jay's hand for 2 seconds, like last week, was like, oh, well, he turned over a new leaf. And then they sent the backstage reporter to be like, can you interview Braun? Find out what happened. She's like, Braun, can you explain yourself? And he just like looked at her like, what are you talking about? And like took off. And she's like,
typical Monday night.
I couldn't get an answer. They're like, well, keep working to get an answer. We got to know why. Why did he do this? And I was like, do you all have amnesia? Have you not been watching the show for months and months? Yeah. Like the strange thing was when he went and shook Jay's hand and was cool. Somebody should have asked him at that point, hey, Braun, are you feeling okay? Like what's going on, man? Like you're usually all hung up on this. So I didn't like this wild over the top reaction like we saw him do a heel turn after like 2 years of being a face. So that was a little off putting for me too.
It was, but after that, actually, we had some pretty good wrestling in a Sheamus and Pete Dunne in a Donnybrook match. I think they called it a good old fashioned Donnybrook match.
Good old fashioned Donnybrook.
But here's my gripe with this match. Okay, first of all, the match was fun. It was fun to watch. I love
totally.
a no holds barred match. I love it. Sheamus, Pete Dunne, awesome. I'm happy with that. Of course, whiskey barrels were being flung and hit up against, and cricket bats and white noise through the barrels, off the barrels into it was fun.
The white noise off the top of the barrels through the table was freaking awesome.
Yeah, I loved it.
That was great.
Every minute of it. Here's my complaint. Yeah. They literally, and I don't know if they thought this through. Maybe this was intentional, but they kind of sort of buried Pete Dunne in that Sheamus literally beat him with both hands tied behind his back. Yep. I don't know if that's what they were trying to do, but the image is always going to be Sheamus has both of his hands behind his back, and he still took out Pete Dunne like that.
Yeah, he broke kicked him and pinned him without arms, and I picked up on the same things. Well, no, I agree because I was like, this was a ton of fun, but I picked up on it at the end. I was like, wait a second, he beat him with both hands tied behind his back, like literally did that. And I thought they were going to almost do a callback because remember they had that other spot where he got his hand stuck in the turnbuckle and he ripped the turnbuckle and broke it.
Oh, yeah.
And then he hit the road kick. I thought he was going to break the zip tie. Like I was waiting for him to snap the zip tie and then hit the brogue kick. But when it didn't happen, he just hit it with his hands tied and then he pinned him. I was like, oh man, that makes Pete look like a chump. Like so it wasn't a great look for him. But this match was probably my most fun match of the night. I'll say. I think I enjoyed this one the most.
I did. I liked this match. It was lots of fun. That's what I'm saying. I was really enjoying this match up until that point when I realized that. I was like, did you really have to do that to Pete? But It could have been worse. We had after that we had Natalia, Laya Valkyria, Zelina Vega,
Yeah.
Katana Chance, and Kaden Carter against the worst named faction in all of professional wrestling, Pure
Yeah.
Fusion Collective, and the
Collective.
Unholy Union. 10-woman tag match. This it seems a little hokey. I feel like they just didn't know what to do with all these women, so they just put them all together in a tag
Yeah.
match. I know they've had their beefs, I know they had their issues, and I know they're trying to push Katana
Yeah.
Chance to be a little more aggressive. But I mean, I I could have done without the match, and it has nothing to do with the fact that they're women's wrestlers. I'm a huge fan of women's wrestling. I think Lyra Valkyria is awesome on her own. I think
Yeah.
Kaden Carter, Katana Chance, although I don't like their gimmick. They are great wrestlers,
Yeah.
and I enjoy their movesets.
Oh, yeah.
Zelina Vega has so much to bring to the table. They just hold her back so much, I feel, because obviously her husband, Aleister Black, can definitely, hold his own and teach her a few things. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't a fan of it. I could have done without the match. It was just over with before it even started. So, I mean, it just
Yeah, I agree with that. Like that I had basically the same assessment where I was like, a 10-woman tag match felt needless and messy, and it
Yeah.
really felt like they were trying to cram in 2 women's matches. And they were like,
Yeah.
"Hey, we don't have enough time. Let's do one." There were still 2 commercial breaks during this one too.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
was like, "Well, if you're going to do that, like, why would you have 2 commercial breaks?"
Mm-hmm.
And the show was dominated mostly by commercial breaks.
Yeah.
A huge number of pre-taped promos.
Mm-hmm.
Because like before this, there was all these like, oh, this happened earlier with Liv. We didn't show it live, but it happened earlier. This happened
Yeah.
earlier. Here's a pre-tape package from Rhea Ripley.
Yeah.
There was so much time spent on trying to fit in all the pre-taped stuff, and then they would take these long commercial breaks during the few matches that they did have. So I was like, just shorten this one down. Don't make it a big 10-woman tag. Do something that's meaningful for somebody's story. Yeah, this was my least favorite match of the night.
Yeah, but after that, thankfully, we had the main event, which was my match of the night, Gunther against Sami Zayn for the World Heavyweight title. I liked the look and feel they gave it. They presented it as a big deal, like a PLE. For a minute there,
Yeah.
you kind of almost thought Sammy was going to come away with this because they even had the graphic for Crown Jewel. They had it altered, like they showed that they had both versions.
Like the what if?
And I thought
Yeah.
I thought that was a nice touch. I thought that was a cool touch to have, and kind of give some more meaning to the match as well. Sami Zayn, went to town. They both went at it, and it was a good back and forth. A lot of big. I like
Yeah.
Gunther's clotheslines in this one. They were pretty brutal. I think JBL would be proud. And but my only thing is Sammy kicking out of the power bombs, which are obviously Gunther's finisher. Not a huge fan of kicking out of finishers, but I get it. The adrenaline. I think he kind of did like a Hulk spot. Towards the end, where he was kind of like hulking up and not selling the
Doing the no selling. Yeah.
yeah, and it was okay, but at the same time, this was also bombarded by tons of commercial breaks, which was extremely
Yeah.
annoying. It's almost like USA's kind of bitter that WWE's going to Raw's going to Netflix, so
Netflix.
they're just like flooding them with all the ad breaks, I guess. But when it finally came through, I think we had I think it was like 7 or 8 minutes of straight, like for the finish, we had like 7 or 8 minutes straight of just like straight wrestling, and that's where you had Sami Zayn hit the haluva kick outside, throw Gunther back in the ring because he realized he can't win the title with a count out, and then he went in to go hit the haluva kick and then got clotheslined and power bombed and kicked out of the power bomb almost immediately. That was the Hulk up spot, but then Gunther locks in the sleeper and Sami Zayn gets out of it. It almost passes out, but then again hits him with the sleeper again, brings him right back down and puts all his weight down, and eventually Sami Zayn just passes out, and so the ref has to call for the bell. And this, not usually a huge fan of the pass out spot, but in this case I feel it was warranted because you had to, you don't want Sami Zayn to look weak in his attempt to go after Gunther, but you don't want Gunther to look weak either because he's about to go against Cody Rhodes at Crown Jewel. But overall, I really enjoyed this match. This was my match of the night, and it was a good way to end the show.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was really enjoyable for what you got to see.
Yeah.
I thought it was good. I liked the pass out spot at the end because it really does make Gunther seem like a threat to everybody and a real serious threat where he's like choking people out. So I liked the finish here. And also it's kind of like Sammy's so resilient and he's going to keep fighting back that you literally have to put him to sleep kind of thing at the end. So I like that
to get him
too.
to stop.
To get him to quit. So it was good. It was just the whole show was so clunky. That's why, like, my grade for this, I gave Raw like a D this week.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm being way too harsh on it, but I was like, it was just for a 2 hour show. It felt like it was 4 hours long. They had way too many promos. They had way too many commercial breaks. They had way too many pre-taped spots, and very little wrestling. And like we've said before, I like wrestling on my wrestling shows. So when there's not a lot of wrestling, I get like a little miffed about it. But
Yeah, and you know, after this match, obviously, Cody Rhodes comes out immediately to just kind of, stand face to face there with Gunther, just kind of do a little standoff there, because obviously that's going to be who his competitor or opponent is going to be. Yeah. As for the show, I gave it a low C, mainly because it just felt like the longest 2 hour show ever, and I feel like they have a lot of ad breaks, which were, and granted, maybe a lot of these are out of WWE's control. It's probably the network, and I get that, but at the same time, it's also, the type of matches that we had. I mean, that 10-woman tag match could have been something different. I feel it could have been maybe an actual tag team match, or maybe I don't know, something different. I don't like Sheamus making Pete Dunne look weak, beating him with both hands behind his back. And then, the awkward promos and the pre-recorded promos were like, I think Rhea Ripley's was like legit, like, the ending got botched. She kind of insinuated that the ending got botched. So that's my take on that. But I digress. And SmackDown was actually a lot better.
SmackDown was a lot better. I mean, not by much, but it was a lot better. No, SmackDown was good, and it was funny. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, it followed a similar format in the sense that Raw, you had 2 championship matches, and then SmackDown, you had 2 championship matches. So you had the U.S. title, and then you had the women's tag matches. We did start off with a lot of flashbacks to Bad Blood throughout the show. So this one was pretty promo heavy too. When I was watching, I was just a lot of promos and a lot of cutbacks. And then we opened up with Jimmy Uso coming out of the ring, and then he cut a pretty basic promo about, because the main event was Solo versus Jimmy, and how he's basically going to kick Solo's butt. And then Roman Reigns' music hit. And then Roman joined Jimmy and did the whole, Mike Demand thing where he held his hand out. And then the crowd went nuts for Roman. And then Roman had a nice little touch here where he asked the crowd to acknowledge Jimmy. And then they cheered. And then Jimmy put his hand out to get the microphone, and he just slapped his hand. So like that whole exchange back and forth was kind of funny and nice. And then he kind of went on. Not the best promo, I'll say, for Roman. There were a couple of times where he stumbled a little bit, but he was talking about how he's the tribal chief and that he's not a wise man, but he's the tribal chief and he takes what is his. Right. He didn't like the position that he's at right now, but that the goats are here and we're the ones. And then Jimmy's like, "We're not though," which I thought was great. Because it's like, you guys aren't the ones anymore. And then Jimmy pointed out, he's like, "We got a chief with no tribe, or Ulafala," and that Jimmy came back because Roman needed him and needed his help, and that they both needed help, and which I thought was great. The other thing too that they implied, Jimmy's like, "Hey, I know a guy," which is Jey Uso, presumably Jey Uso,
right?
Because the crowd was doing the yeet. The crowd thought so, and then Roman said no yeet, so Roman thought so too when the crowd was doing the yeet chant. And Jimmy also pointed out that Roman would forever be his tribal chief, but that he's the only one in the family who follows him anymore. And that's how the segment ended. Jimmy walked off, and they laid the groundwork for Roman's going to have to get comfortable being a little political here and bringing other people in. But I really liked this opening segment. I thought it was pretty effective. What about you?
Yeah. I think it did the trick, right? It made the point in that it set the tone for the rest of the night and got you to thinking and wondering, is he going to ask Jey back, right? And of course, we know Sami Zayn, the honorary Uso. We know that more than likely will happen. But at the same time, it's like, when the crowd knew, they were chanting and they were wanting to see that. And I think they're hanging on to it. I think they're holding on it, because I think what's going to end up happening is it's going to end up being a huge pop when it finally does happen. Just kind of like when Roman finally came back, there's going to be a huge pop for it, and I'm there for it. And I think it's going to happen. It's inevitable. But it kind of set the groundwork for the rest of the night. And that's what I liked about this promo, is that that is the main event. So, Jimmy came out and was like, "Hey, this is what's going to happen. This is my thoughts." Him and Roman kind of did their back and forth, which was great. They obviously they have great chemistry, their family. And so they finished up that promo, and they kind of left you pondering for the rest of the evening up until the main event, because you knew that the numbers game was going to get it's inevitable. The numbers game is going to happen, right? But it kind of set the tone and said, okay, got you thinking, is Jay going to be out there? Is he going to come out? Is he going to come out regardless? Or is it going to be Cody? Or is it going to be Sammy? Like, who's the help they're going to need? So we'll get into that later. But I did
Yeah,
really
we'll get
enjoy
into
this
that
promo
later.
as well.
But it did. It was really effective. It really set the table well. I like what Jimmy did here. It was fun. It was a little more lighthearted where you kind of saw the combination of Roman's still serious and he's still a threat. He's not a total face, but he's friendlier now when he needs to be, and he's more fun when he needs to be. So I liked it a lot. Then in the commercial break, this is one thing I did not really dislike immediately. It was during the commercial break, we got a promo for like Monday Night Raw, the rematch you've been waiting for. Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair put the women's world titles on the line against Damage Control. And I was like, they're wrestling in a women's world title match later tonight. Like,
yeah, let's advertise that one first.
You
kind of giving away the finish
maybe. There. Yeah, it's like we knew they weren't going to lose. Here's what I think: they were wrestling against a couple of NXT talents, so you knew that they weren't going to lose. However, it's still like the suspension of disbelief. It's like maybe hold that commercial and air it later. Don't air it before that match happened. So that was like the big technical fumble where I was like, "Are you serious, guys?" It's like, come on, and fully knowing they weren't going to lose anyway, but it just bugged me.
Yeah.
And then after that, we got the first match of the night. Actually, was Carmelo Hayes taking on LA Knight for the U.S. Championship. We got a big recap of how they got here with Carmelo getting a controversial win over AJ Styles the week before. And then we had Andrade hanging out at ringside and kind of jawing at Mello. And then we got a very long picture-in-picture commercial break, which happened. It was very reminiscent of Monday Night Raw, where I was like, man, most of this match is picture-in-picture commercial, which I didn't like. But the parts that I got to see after this was good as expected. Of course, LA Knight did eventually hit the BFT and retained the title. It was an entertaining match for what we got to see. It kind of ended with silliness with Andrade like being a distraction, and so Mello couldn't really get on his game. And I was like, that seems kind of weak because he didn't really physically interfere, just kind of lurking around at ringside a lot, and he didn't really physically interfere. So that felt a little silly. And then later on, we got an argument backstage between Carmelo and Nick Aldis, and they're like, well, you know what? You guys have already fought each other 6 times, and it's 3 versus 3, so we're getting a 7th. And I was like, oh, come on. Like, do we really have to do this? A 7th. Now, don't get me wrong. They've been great matches, but this is starting to run a little bit stale now where you go, because he's like, the winner will face LA Knight for the championship. And I'm like, can 2 other people get a shot here at the U.S. championship? Do we have to keep going back and forth between Andrade and Carmelo? So I wasn't wild about that development. But what did you think of the match and the upcoming match?
I enjoyed the match. Obviously, I like LA Knight. I think he's great. Carmelo Hayes is extremely athletic. The ending to the match was great. The whole reversed, and then he tried to do like I guess he like picked him up to like powerbomb, and he leapfrogged over him, and then right away LA Knight turns around and boom, hits the BFT. I like when they're able to hit a move out of nowhere like that. Great way to end the match. Andrade just really to bust his chops, I guess, but not really do anything about it. Just distract him. And then at the end, Nick Aldis, I'm telling him that you're getting an opportunity, don't miss, and whatever, kind of making fun of, or kind of hinting, or kind of just talking trash to Mello,
taking
right?
digs at him,
yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, I guess that'll be fine. What kind of bothered me is then after that, you had Legado come out right after, right? And then he was like, "You're just handing out matches." What he's like, "Well, as a matter of fact, I have a match for you guys, a tag team." And he was like,
against the mystery tag team, right?
Which I already know who it is. It's the Lucha Brothers. I can tell you that right now.
Oh, there you go. Oh, that'll be fun.
It's going to be the Lucha Brothers. They already signed their contract with WWE. That is going to be a great debut.
Well, that'll be fire.
They're just going to destroy that. Well, hold on. It could be. Oh man, now I'm having second thoughts.
As long as they don't have them lose in their debut.
Well, the Viking Raiders are coming back too. But I think they're coming back to Raw.
Oh.
No, the Viking
man.
Raiders,
See, if it's the Viking Raiders now, I'm going to be bummed.
Well, they're going to be. They went back to being called the War Raiders now. Triple H giving back their name, so they're War Raiders.
Oh, good.
That's my fault. They're going to be on Raw. So yes, I'm going to stick with Lucha Bros. It's going to be the Lucha Brothers, and it's going to be amazing. And I'm excited, and I am ecstatic for that if it is, because even later on in the night, I think they were talking. He ran into. I think after another ad break, he ran into Ciampa and Gargano, you know, having a shouting
Yeah,
match
and the Street
with
Profits,
the
and
Street
everyone was just
Profits, and
yelling.
he was like, "I got a new tag team coming in anyways," and they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's Lucha Bros. I guarantee it. It's
Okay,
Lucha
yeah, yeah,
Bros."
yeah, because he said new.
So yeah, so I'm excited for that. That's going to be awesome, and yeah, they're going to destroy them. I already know they're going to destroy them. And it's sad because
Yeah,
Humberto
well,
Garza
that'll be.
you know,
Yeah.
it's cool, but I'm excited.
It'll still be a good match.
Because it's Lucha
Now,
Bros.
well,
I
now,
love
now I'm excited too. Now I'm looking
yeah,
forward to
I
SmackDown
love
next
Lucha
week.
Bros. But yeah, yeah. So it was okay. You know, the match was good. Led into a bunch of different things. Kind of opened the floodgates, so to speak. So excited for that.
Yeah, and then after this, we got a video package explaining who Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend are for everybody who didn't know, and that they're coming up from MXT to challenge for the women's titles to get jobbed out to the champs. So that was the next match, was the women's tag titles. Now, I didn't like any of the way that this played out because it was very clunky to me. So, as Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson were walking down to the ring, Kevin Owens like pulled a Kanye West and grabbed the microphone and was like, "Hey, hold on, I just need to get out here and talk." Like it was like
Yeah.
Kanye West and Taylor Swift, and he's like, "I just need to explain why I attacked Cody Rhodes in a backstage segment." That's the other thing that we hadn't talked about was after Bad Blood. They
Yeah.
did the heel turn, but it wasn't on TV. It was caught by fan camera, which was clearly like one of the staffers back, like shooting on their phone. So they didn't do the payoff. It's like you had to go on social media to see the payoff for this clear heel turn that was going to happen. And then Kevin Owens got suspended, and he wasn't supposed to be there. But then he showed up and grabbed a microphone, and then they cut off his microphone, and then he grabbed the announcer headset and was like, "Hey, you know, I didn't turn on Rhodes. Rhodes turned on me." And then Cody came running down, security came running down, Randy Orton came running down. There's a bunch of pushing and shoving. KO accidentally elbowed Randy in the face, and then Randy intentionally punched Kevin Owens in retaliation in the face. And security cleared everyone out. And then we went to commercial, and then we come back, and this like Jakara and Lash are just hanging out in the ring, like, all right, still doing their entrance and like bopping to the music. Like 10 minutes later, and then the champs come out, and I was like, oh well, this is very awkward. Like we've gone to commercials, they've been hanging out for like 15 minutes, and then as soon as commercial comes back, then Bianca and Jade had barely started that, and then they got a flashback backstage segment for Piper Niven and Chelsea Green. And I'm like, guys, can we just stop cutting into things and interrupting things? And it was like, this happened earlier. And then finally the match started with Chelsea Green at ringside and Piper Niven at ringside. So the match itself was pretty short. Almost nothing really happened. The most consequential thing that happened was Michael Cole and Corey Graves complaining about how bad Chelsea Green spelled because she had been thrown into the dumpster in the dumpster match.
3 weeks ago. I mean,
3 weeks ago. So clearly, though, this is. I was like, "Are you guys kidding me?" So Chelsea Green is clearly been taking showers every day and is dressed to the nines and looks fantastic. There is no way you're going to convince me that she still smells like garbage. And Michael's like, "The smell is disgusting. Oh, she smells so bad." And then at one point, Chelsea Green ate a big boot and then flew over the announce table into Michael Cole, and he starts like retching and like, "I'm gonna vomit." And I'm like, okay, guys, like this is so stupid. The fact that you're trying to pretend that Chelsea Green, who is pretty stuck up from what I can tell, and pretty superficial, would allow herself to smell bad. Chelsea Green flew over an announce table and landed in my lap. I wouldn't care. And I wouldn't care how bad she smelled. But Michael Cole's so over the top, pretending like he's going to vomit. And he's like, because she smells so disgusting. And then like during all of this wackiness, Bianca and Jade hit their double finisher and win. And it was like the whole thing was useless. There was no point in doing it. It had nonstop interruptions between the KO thing and the Chelsea Green thing that it felt like a complete waste of everyone's time. And it was just filler. So I hated this whole segment and everything about it. But go ahead, Victor.
I mean, yeah, it was annoying. I hated I get the Cody Rhodes Kevin Owens thing. You want to get Kevin Owens out there to kind of speak his mind
makes
and
sense.
stuff.
Yeah,
because and apparently he did rough Cody up a little bit, like legit. I guess Cody wanted to really sell it, so they legit did it because they wanted to look, because they did it where fans usually wait for people to come out. So they, some fans probably caught that, and from what I heard, it went viral, and I think that's exactly what they wanted it to do. I think they're just trying new
Oh,
avenues, so that works. But I hated that it was at the expense of a NXT debuting tag team, Last Legend, sorry, and Jakara Jackson. They're great wrestlers, and they deserved an opportunity to shine. But yeah, it just got so convoluted with everything going on the side, and Michael Cole. I love Michael Cole, but Jesus, I was even just like, oh my God,
it was
bro,
too
stop.
much.
Like, again, the fact that they're still pushing that about Chelsea Green, I'm like, and it's funny because I've seen Chelsea Green wrestle in Lucha Underground, and she can go. Like, if
she
anyone
can really
has any
wrestle.
doubts,
She actually can.
She actually had a match. We were talking about Lucha Brothers. She actually had a match against Penta, and that was actually a really good match. If you haven't seen it, her and Penta Cero Miedo, or Pentagon Jr., what he went by over there, they had a great match, and she can wrestle. She really can, and it's just, I think a lot of this comic gimmicky stuff takes away from that. But yeah, this is already getting old. It's just like, I don't know whose idea it is, but it's kind of it's almost like Vince-ish. It's almost like Vince style.
Yeah, did she offend somebody, and so they're just constantly trying to do things to make her to
she
embarrass
told
her.
one of the producers he had BO, so he's like, I'm gonna make you smell for like a month.
For a month, and everyone's gonna talk about how bad you smell, and they need to bathe you in tomato juice.
Gonna puke.
And I'm like, she wasn't sprayed by a skunk, guys. And even if she was, she'd take a shower, she'd be fine. It's like everything about this is like, I have pets that have been sprayed by skunks, and yes, it smells awful, but you give them a bath and they're fine. Like you're not going to convince me that Chelsea Green still smells like a dumpster after 3 weeks of showering and getting ready.
We'll see what they do.
But anyways, yeah. So after this, we got Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton coming out together for a promo. And Nia said she was going to give credit for Bayley for the fight that she put up. Then she went on to cut a promo on Liv that she's going to beat her at Crown Jewel because they're going to be facing each other, and said that it would be Tiffy time after that Tiffy would cash in on Liv. So now I'm thinking that, okay, they're going to save Crown. They're going to do Crown Jewel cash in at this point. Like they're really teasing this a lot. Then you had Naomi interrupting, and Naomi cut a pretty weak promo. And the crowd was pretty flat during it. Like during this whole exchange with Naomi, like making fun of Nia and Nia jawing back, like you could kind of hear a pin drop the whole time. Like everyone's just like, they weren't really into it. And then Naomi challenged Nia, and Nia accepted, and that's when they actually got into it. Because Nia was like, "Get a ref down here. I'll put my title on the line right now." And then the crowd came alive a little bit. And then you had Liv Morgan and Raquel and Dom all came down to the ring. Surprise, surprise. Liv was there to make an example out of Nia. I'm not sure what she was planning to do, but then just decided that she was going to hang out ringside and watch this match, this title match that has spontaneously been made between Naomi and Nia Jax. And we go to commercial break, and when we get back, the match is already underway. And by the way, it's not for the title. Which I was like, seriously, guys? And they're like, well, we talked to Nick Aldis, and Nick Aldis was like, nah, Naomi's going to have to earn it. And I'm thinking, Nick, you have given so many title shots. Xavier Woods has done nothing. And I know that's Adam Pearce. But Xavier Woods had done nothing to really earn that title shot except kind of beating Rey Mysterio after losing several matches. And then he just faced Jey Uso for the IC title. So let's not do this. People have to earn their title shot thing. So we kind of got half of a match of Naomi versus Nia Jax that was already underway. But it was a good match because Naomi's good, and I think Nia Jax, as much as I like to be critical, has improved. Mm-hmm. But it served as a reminder that, for me, we're now in Crown Jewel detour mode for the next 3 weeks. Where it's like, let's abandon all the storylines that we're doing. It's champ versus champ, so we're gonna kind of shoehorn in a rivalry between Liv and Nia just because we got to get to this next event. And then you had Naomi winning after Liv basically attacked Nia with the Money in the Bank briefcase and beat her up and allowed her to get the win. So everyone's like, hey, what a big win for Naomi. I'm like, you just saw like Liv Morgan like pulverize Nia Jax with the briefcase. Like, come on. Like, that's a very heel way to win. And Nia lost here because this is just a way to further advance the story and create like a rivalry in the next 3 weeks between these two who haven't interacted at all. So felt forced. I wasn't super wild about it. I didn't like the bait and switch that this is a title match and you come back and it's like, oh, it's already underway, and we don't really care. We started it because it's not a title match and doesn't matter. So I wasn't wild about the setup for this either, but the match itself was good.
Yeah, the match was fine. I was happy with it. I think it was well wrestled, but yeah, I could have done without the interference because then you had of course, Liv out there at ringside, and she was just kind of there. Raquel was there too, but then right when Tiffany Stratton was going to hit Naomi with the briefcase, that's when they took it away from her, and then it just went from there, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. It's that 3 week spell of we're gonna have to kind of come up with these feuds out of thin air. It's a little more, I guess, without making it look forced or look all random. I guess you could have some sort of feud going on between two heels, because this is really what it's going to be. It's going to be two heels.
Yeah.
And if Tiffy cashes in, I have a feeling it's going to be on. I have a feeling it's going to be on Nia Jax. I don't see her moving to Raw. I don't see Liv dropping the title, because Liv is gonna drop it to Rhea if she does. I'm thinking is what's gonna happen. But that's what I think is just gonna happen. It was okay. I mean, like I said, you're right. It was kind of spoiled with the whole heel tactics at the end. I know Naomi was not aware of it. Obviously, she hit the powerbomb and did the high stack pin and got the victory. But then after that, then you had after all
Rhea
that
Ripley.
Rhea Ripley just comes out and just takes everybody out.
Yeah.
It's just like,
She runs out, took everybody out, and then just stood tall. And I was like, all right, I guess Rhea's got it back on track now. Hopefully, when she stays focused, stay focused, Rhea, and don't underestimate people. Then you're an unstoppable monster. And that's for me too. I was also like, okay, we're having all these cameos from Raw that are just cutting over here into SmackDown's time because it's only a 2-hour show. So I was like, okay, I get it. I know why you're doing it. Like, you have to do it because she followed Liv all the way over here to get revenge. So that was fine.
But it also made you wonder, because after this was the main event, it made you wonder if a certain IC champion was in the building for his brother.
Yeah.
So
made you wonder. We'll see. So after this, there was a couple of things that happened backstage earlier with Cody and Randy Orton, where they were going back and forth, and Randy's like, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to fix this. You just get in your limo and leave. And then Cody's like, all right, deuces, and then leaves. And then Nick Aldis is like, I look at you, mate. You're Randy Orton, the voice of reason. And then I was like, yeah, that's what I've been saying for weeks. Like, why is Randy Orton the voice of reason here? And then they go off. And then this is when we had the big argument with DIY and Street Profits, and everyone was arguing back and forth. And they're like, what's happening over there? And then Nick Aldis runs over, and Kevin Owens is like attacking Randy Orton, which I'm thinking, if Randy Orton went up to KO and had a chat with him, I don't think if a fight broke out, KO's going to get the upper hand on Randy Orton. So that felt a little silly to me, because I was like, clearly he was looking for him, and clearly he was going to fix it. But then you have Randy Orton just like getting beat down by KO, and KO's like, you got to pick a side, man, and then beat him up. So it's like, yeah, heel's going to heel. We get it. And they had to go get a medic for Randy Orton because of Kevin Owens. And I was like, okay, that's a little bit of a stretch for me. But it's fine. It continues the story of Kevin Owens is bad guy now. So we got that real brief glimpse before we got into our main event. And then we had Solo Sikoa just cut a very mid promo on Jimmy with him standing in the dark with the Ula Fala going like, yeah, I'm going to get you, big brother. And you will acknowledge me. And then it was like, okay, I could have done without that. Could have done without that. Saved a couple of minutes, and then we had Jimmy versus Solo, which was really main event. I mean, it was good. I will say this: it was basically Jimmy versus Bloodline 2.0, which you knew it was going to be, because everybody came out. Roman didn't come out with Jimmy initially. You had Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa were all out there. And it was kind of just a slower paced beatdown, which was fine. Like, I think it fit with the styles of both of them. Yeah. And it was really Solo more controlling the pace and really trying to punish his big brother, and he's trying to get him to acknowledge him. And then lots of like Jacob Fatu jumping in and like interfering at little key moments to make sure that his boss had the upper hand. And they continued to work that match. Until finally, right after interference from Jacob Fatu, Solo hit the Samoan spike. Solo got the win over Jimmy. The beatdown began on Jimmy, numbers game thing, all those things that we expected. And then we got the run out from Roman. So he runs out and cleared the ring. And then it was just him and Solo. And then, of course, Jacob got in there again. We got to do something about Jacob, guys. Like, have somebody on him at all times, because he is always the one that comes in for the save every single time. And then the numbers game built up and was too much. So the show ended with Bloodline 2.0 standing tall. They beat up Jimmy and Roman, left them in the ring, and then you had that great moment of kind of, you can hear on the hot mic of Jimmy saying, "Hey Roman, we need help, man. We need help." Like reinforcing the point of, look, like we can't do this just being the two of us, and there's the evidence of it. They didn't look bad. They didn't look weak. It just looked like, hey, it's 4-on-2. That's it. Yeah. You're way outnumbered, and you got to do something about this. So I expect that this week, I wasn't expecting Jay to run out at that point. I kind of figured, I was like, it'd be cool, but I was like, they're probably going to hold this for a couple of more weeks, or maybe next week, and just kind of let it simmer a little bit, which is probably the right thing to do. But I thought it was a strong start to the show and a strong finish to the show, because it was still that constant theme of, hey, Roman, stop trying to do it alone. You can't do it alone. And he told him that early on, that he needed friends, and then it proved it to him at the end of the night that you can't do it alone. Like, here's exactly what we've all been talking about. So I thought it was a great close to a pretty uneven show in the middle. It was bookended by two pretty nice segments.
I agree, and I like this, and it did set the tone, because a lot of people you hear the yeet chants and people thinking that Jay's going to come out, and he didn't, and that was the right call. Yeah, that really was, because I feel that should come when they announce the War Games match, because I have a feeling that's what this is going to. Yeah, this is going to head to a War Games match, I feel, and that's when Roman calls Jay out. Lets Jay come out, and that's where you do it, I feel, because that's going to be like the last piece of the puzzle, so that maybe he recruits Sammy, right? Because he had good rapport with Sammy and all that, and he recruits Sammy, and then for a while it's just them three, and then before you know it, when it's time, the last member to be announced is going to be Jay, and I think that's when you do it, and that's when it's going to get the biggest pop. So I think that's what's going to happen. The match was fun. I like the match. Jacob, it was good. I love Jacob Fatu. He's freaking awesome. He's extremely athletic, and he is everywhere at once. But Solo looked good. He looked strong. He was hitting some great power moves, and I think this pace really, really helped him in elevating the way he looks in the ring. Because for the longest time, people didn't really understand why he looked so good, why he didn't look so good in the ring, because they were fast-paced matches. He's more like, he's the street fighter, so he's more like just a brawler, and that's what this was. This was a brawl. This was, him beating up his big brother and trying to prove a point, and he did. His Samoan spike, which I thought was great, and it was good. Again, you had all the interference, which you knew was happening. I'm glad they didn't pull the trigger with Jay. Although I did think it was comical, because I saw a clip from somebody's phone. Somebody posted it on TikTok where at the end of SmackDown, I guess in a dark match, Jey Uso was out there like with the crowd, and I'm like, you mean to tell me the whole time his brother's getting his ass kicked? Really? He's just kicking it backstage, like,
just hanging out,
with the time. It was like,
we haven't patched things up yet, so he's like, I'm good.
He's like, nah, Roman said no eat, so it's all good. I'm like, damn. But no, it was good. Well, I enjoyed the show. I enjoyed SmackDown more than I did Raw.
Definitely. I'd still give, let's see what I gave a D for Raw. I give SmackDown I'm gonna give it a B. I almost said C+. I'll give it a B. It was a B show for me.
I agree. Same here. I had the same. I had a B minus, because of the whole clunkiness there between the Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. That was so awkward. And you know what else?
The whole women's tag title matches.
Not to mention when they had when Solo came out, I thought for a minute there what I was watching like restarted, because after Solo came out, they went to a commercial break, and then they came back to, like, Michael Cole threw it to a video package for Bad Blood, recapping the CM Punk, the Hell in a Cell match, and I'm like, what the hell? It was like a whole.
Oh, I know, we got that.
Yeah, and the whole time I'm thinking to myself, Solo's sitting there for like a good 5 minutes, just like waiting for this.
Just like hanging out, like run the promos. Because they did the same. There were so many moments like that throughout SmackDown where I was like, oh, another video package, another pre-record thing. So just too much of that. Too much of that. I will say though. So my favorite moment from Raw, and probably one of my top moments, maybe not the top moment on Raw, but one of my top moments on Raw and SmackDown for both, was the WWE 2K24 Bray Wyatt downloadable content. Yes. That was probably my favorite part of Raw, was seeing that because they did they're doing the Fiend with the new get up, the
with
one
the
that was
new-
like the concept
yeah.
one that they never did, which looks great.
It
like
does.
what I so it looks so good, and it's kind of a bummer because I was like, man, we're never gonna see that. We're never gonna obviously never see Bray Wyatt wearing it. I don't know if they'll maybe have Bo Dallas do it for one of the matches.
I don't think
I don't
he
know.
will.
I don't
would.
think he will, but it looks so good. The Fiend mask I was never super wild about, and I think it was the big stretched out nose that always kind of got me a little bit. The fact that this one has the nose cut out, so it's all just the section where you can just see the gums and the teeth, and there's no nose on it. It reminds me very much, because I was thinking about this today. I was like, it reminds me of something really cool, but I can't remember what it is. It reminds me of the video game Resident Evil 3 with Nemesis. So Nemesis was that character from 3, and it had that same kind of cutout where the nose was missing and the mouth. So that stylistically is done the same. And I always thought Nemesis was such a cool character that it harkens to that. It just looks so good. And then the kind of the body armor with like the abdominal little plates and all that, and the separation there, like it's such a great looking outfit, and it's such a great looking mask. So that was I was like just in time for Halloween. They did the downloadable content. And I think they're doing an Uncle Howdy version, like the new Uncle Howdy is going to be downloadable too. So that was like my favorite part of Monday Night Raw. It had nothing
Hands
to do
down.
with the show.
I mean, Bray Wyatt's the mask that never was, right? That we never got to see debuted. I'm excited for that. That looks so clean. It looks so good. Obviously, me being a big Bray Wyatt fan, I got the lantern on my wrist and my forearm and everything, and got Bray back there, right? But I mean, that's a big thing for me is, you know, seeing that they're still going to release it. At least we'll get to see it come to life in some form, and I'm so happy that that's
you
how we'll
get
it.
here's the vision.
Yeah.
Here's what the plan was. Here's what could have been.
I'm so excited for that.
I'm super excited for it, but also like it's like excited but a little resentful towards WWE because they really did bury that character so badly.
Vince didn't understand how that character was supposed to go. I think
and I'm thinking you guys absolutely destroyed that character and you buried it at the end of its run, and now it's like, hey, look at this really awesome thing. I'm like, yes, I know you had this really awesome thing, and then you totally buried it, and you had no reason to, and you're only now in retrospect can go back and say, hey, we had something really special here. So it's bittersweet in that regard too.
It is, and it's sad because that's the thing. Like I can't help but to always, every time I see the Wyatt Six, I know we haven't seen him in a while. We've seen hints that it looks like the next target. I had seen what was that backstage? I think it was on.
Yeah, there was like a little flash up during a backstage interview earlier
with the Miz. There you go. I think Miz is
the Miz.
I think Miz is the next one. Sorry, I had to rethink it. But every time I see like the way they're doing it, and I'm like, I can't help but wonder, like, how would the Fiend, like this Fiend do under Triple H's like helm, with Triple H at the helm, right? Like how would it do? Because Triple H is obviously giving everyone a lot more creative control on what they do and their characters, which I think is great because you're seeing a lot of guys and girls excel and do well, right? And I think they're a lot more pushing it, but they do very well with it. And I can't help but wonder how well it would be portrayed and how well it'd be going for Bray if that was still happening. But one could wish.
What might have been. But yeah, and on that note, that's what we got this week for the WWE week that was. Thank you again, as always, for all the support. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Leave us comments if you agree, disagree, or just want to talk about wrestling. We'll talk about wrestling, too. Until next week, I've been Michael D'Angelo. He's been Big D. Daryl Ortiz. Have a great week, everyone, and we will see you soon.